Good Monday morning to you. I'm Pete Najarian. This is The Take for Market Rebellion. And I'll tell you what, Friday was an absolute amazing day in so many different ways. And one of those, it started off up about 300 points. A lot of the reopening excitement still part of the market and is bringing the market, raising it up a little bit. But got a nice big spike when we got the jobs report that absolutely shocked everybody. And we covered this on Friday, but just going back to that for a moment, the market spiked from being already up 300 points to up about 700 points. And throughout the early parts of the trading session, we were up over 1,000 points. We were well up and above 27,000 for the Dow. We could continue to be well above that 27,000 in the Dow. We finished the day up, not quite at the highs, but still very strong, up about 829 points or about 3%. We were up over 4% early, when we had gotten up over those 1,000 points. Just unbelievable, quite honestly. But the disconnect of the NASDAQ, once again, being a factor. And did start to play a little bit of catch up late in the day, but we actually, it was amazing just to look at the market itself screaming, and yet the NASDAQ really not participating a lot. It did by the end of the day. It actually was up 2%, so really nice participation, but well below the 3% of the Dow. Had a nice big move in the S&P 500 as well, sort of middling those two. So very interesting. Now, what are some of the areas that were really exploding to the upside and really pushing this market? Well, energy. I've been talking about this for a while now. And it's amazing to me here on Monday morning, listening to so many on TV just talking about energy and the ridiculous move. Let's all put some perspective into this whole thing. Oil has gone from 17 to 40 in a fairly short period of time. You would think that with the backdrop of reopening, more demand, people going to work, all of that sort of playing into this, the price of oil moving higher, supply, demand, all those kind of things, you would think that it might actually have some impact, which exactly is what's happening right now with the XLE, the OIH, the services. Well, as we get a little bit higher, obviously, the demand starts to change a little bit, and the profitability starts to change when you go from $17 a barrel to close to $40 a barrel. So what have we been seeing? We've been seeing that OIH. I bring it up all the time. And Friday, up 13% on Friday. I talked about this on Wednesday and Thursday when we were on the halftime report. It's amazing how much is going on in energy. Occidental was up 33% Friday. Apache was up 23%. Marathon was up 17.5%. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the huge, and a lot of it short covering. There's a lot of different things going on. Absolutely no doubt about it. But there also is the backdrop of a couple of positive things and why we are seeing this movement in energy. The XLE was up 7.5% with Exxon up 8%. So a lot of different things going on in the energy world and continues to go on as we speak today. But the industrial's up about 3.5% on Friday. Boeing had an absolutely extraordinary week when you consider that on Monday, Boeing was trading at $147 a share and got up as high as 218. It closed at 205. Got up as high as 218 on Friday. And oh, by the way, adding to that today, we'll get into that in just a sec. But you had Caterpillar, you had Honeywell, you had Raytheon, all the usual suspects sort of participating with the industrials as well. Financials. Now, this was another really strong day for the financials. And if you look over the 10-year, you see it moving up a little bit higher and higher. And financials have been sort of moving up along with that whole thing. Well, JP Morgan, Citi, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, every one of those up over 5% on Friday. So a really big participation. Throw in some American Express, some Visa, MasterCard. A lot of those, fintech world or whatever, continue to be very, very strong as well. And I mentioned the 10-year. But then look over at the volatility index. Wow. We started the week around 29, finished the week around 24, and we've watched this volatility really start to come back out of the marketplace pretty rapidly. Now today, a little bit of an interesting thing going on today. The market's moving to the upside, up about 250 points on the Dow. I'm looking at the NASDAQ right now. It's in the red. It's down about 22 points, so about 0.25%, while the Dow's up about 1%. Now, volatility starting to go a little bit higher now. We got into the 24s. Today we're in the 25s right now, about 25.5. We're up about 3.5% right now for the volatility index. So that speaks volumes. And speaking of volumes, this was absolutely extraordinary. Now, why do we love the derivatives markets? Why do I talk about volumes all the time? Why is it that this is the area, and it doesn't seem to get enough attention, where all of leverage, but also add into that, where is the liquidity? Well, it's in the derivatives world, and it's right there in the options world itself. Well, let's just take a look and break this down for a second. I've been pounding the table for a long period of time about how strong volumes continue to grow year after year after year. 2018, 2019, we averaged, let's just call it about 20 million contracts per day. Right now this year, we're averaging about 28 million per day. And now that we're getting into June, this is starting to get pretty interesting. So we're averaging about 28 million per day. Now, the first 5 days of June, we're averaging 32 million contracts per day. That's just the first 5 days, very early still, so we'll see how it all plays out. Friday, we traded 47.5 million contracts on Friday. The volumes have exploded and continue to get big, strong, and as I've mentioned in the past, when we have slow days, those slow days would still be record days. But just to give you some insight, June 5th, keep that in the books, 47.5 million contracts. That is where we are and why it's so important to have the educational piece to understand the options world, because this is where the growth is and we're excited for it every day. Unusual option activity. Shoot, there might have been 35 or 40 unusual option activities hitting on the systems on Friday. Absolutely ringing like a bell in the casino, which they've opened up again as well. Now, the opening today, we had a nice big opening to the upside. We were up about 245 points. We continue to be up 250 points right now, so that's strong. Oil still hanging around 39, 40, somewhere in that sort of a range. NASDAQ, as I mentioned, is down a little bit, not a lot, but it's in the red, which is interesting to see that. And what's really powering a lot of the Dow right now? Well, Boeing, once again. Boeing just continues to be this absolute juggernaut to the upside, up about 10%, might even be more right now. I'm looking at Caterpillar and Dow also participating in the upside. In the financials, it's interesting because there's a huge disconnect within the financials right now of which names are absolutely exploding much more so than the others and leading the financials, which are up not huge, but up about 1.5% on the XLF. It's Wells Fargo, Citi, and Bank of America. Bank of America, by the way, some huge option paper in there today. All very short term, but still nonetheless, very large option playing in there as well. Energy, once again, I mentioned that earlier, mention it again. Exxon's up about 3% right now. I looked over at the OIH just before we came on. That's up about another 8%, 8% again for the index. So nice big move. So what continues to be something where there's some short covering, there's a lot of different speculation going on, and where are they moving to? Well, airlines, hotels, leisure, cruise ships. They're all continuing this move to the upside. And does it make total sense? Probably not. Some of the recovery might be premature, might be looking forward a little bit too fast. But nonetheless, those names continue this incredible move to the upside in the recovery state of where many of these names had been pushed down to ridiculously low levels after being cut in the knees in terms of what they were able to do as companies, being shut down as much as they were. So it's an unbelievable recovery. Now, on some unusual activity, we always love to give you something. Here's today's Kraft Heinz. Now, Kraft Heinz is really interesting because this is one of these names, we talk about staples, we talk about all these different parts of sectors and of the economy and all the rest of this. This name just hit, and it was pretty big size. And it's a name that does hit occasionally. We do see this once in a while. But today I thought it really stood out, and that's why I wanted to choose this. 12,000 of the July 35 calls were bought today, approximately 50 cents. They started a little lower, they moved a little higher, but call it about 50 cents is around what they were paying. Stock was trading around 32.85. So you got until July, the time frame. It's not those June 12th expiring this Friday. It's nothing in June at all, going all the way out to the regular July expiration cycle in this one. So in this market that we've been in, this is certainly a much further out trade than what we have been seeing, because the majority of what we see is everything very, very front and center in June, maybe this week, maybe next week, maybe actually the following week, whatever the case may be, but very, very short term. This one actually stands out a little bit. So 32.85, seeing these Heinz call buyers, pretty interesting, and some pretty good size as well. Folks, have a great day of trading. Going to give you one last update. We're less than a 1 hour into the trading day. We're up about 2.25 right now. Looking at the NASDAQ, down about 29 points. Nothing huge, so we don't want to make too much out of that. And I'm looking at the S&P up just fractionally, five points right now, with volatility trading around 25.60. It's up 4.5%. So that does give you a little idea with this movement. you are seeing a little bit of movement of volatility starting to come back into this marketplace because you're getting some pretty interesting moves. And I think because of the fact that there is this disconnect, I think that's might be playing into this as well. Folks, have a great day of trading. Totally excited, as you can tell, because these volumes are extraordinary. When you're talking about over 40 million, we've had that, but this is the biggest number I think I've seen of the year. Maybe one of the biggest numbers I can ever recall. Even going back into the financial crisis, I'm not really sure some of the biggest volumes we ever got there. Maybe they were bigger, but 47.5 million, that is a huge, huge number. So understand the options world, understand derivatives, understand the pricing, get some education. The Market Rebellion's here for you. We've got a great group of guys and gals who are educators, do a fantastic job. We're excited each and every day because we are where the activity is in the marketplace. Have a great day of trading.